is a trend, the increase in employment among this population. It's a trend actually nationally. I just wanted to, for the viewers, share a couple of numbers. So these are from the U.S. Department of Labor. Among people with developmental disabilities, ages 16 to 24, labor force participation rate in 2022 was 39%. Unemployment was 5.4%. Now, in 2021, the labor force participation rate was 35%, and the unemployment rate was double that, 10.8%.
Yeah.
So it looks like not just here locally, but all across the country, people are starting to realize this could potentially be a solution to labor problems, which we are having, which are very acute in this in the Mahoning Valley.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. I say this, and it's hard to say silver lining when you say pandemic, right? Because of what we went through.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, as boards of DD and supporting individuals with developmental disabilities and hoping that we can help them achieve that life goal of independence and finding a job, much like we talked about earlier, when we were coming out of school. And I mean, think of when you were, somewhere probably between 14 and 17, and you had your first job and you got that first paycheck, and that sense of, well, this is my money.
Right.
I can do with it what I want. I didn't get it from mom or dad. This is mine, and, they counsel you and help you and, teach you how to spend that money and to do it wisely. Same holds true for the people that we serve, the independence that comes with, having that paycheck. So, again, if there is that one silver lining from our perspective as a board of DD and how it's helped our individuals, is I think some employers have had to open their eyes and look other places for workforce, and because of the shortages that are out there. So I really do think, and it's kind of odd to say it that way, that pandemic probably did help our folks with some of those employment numbers. And I think it made businesses look differently at like, hey, maybe who we could hire. And then again, it's like an avalanching or snowball effect. And again, at those chamber events and those type of things, boy, we're really hurting. Where'd you go? And this is who I got. I got a couple. Well, now I have 5 individuals, and now I have 8. Well, we probably should look at this. And that's really how kind of word of mouth. And I know, and we're thankful for you. You've run stories on some of our folks that are out there, working, at some of our local businesses. And a lot of times we get calls as a result of those videos playing or a story running, and so I do think that we will continue to see that trend go up and up. What the peak is, it's hard to say, but there's other factors just within our system as well. I talked about the Employment First initiative back in 2012. There continues to be pressure on us as boards of DD and our service providers to flip our model from that, hey, when people graduate, let's go to that sheltered workshop where there's, 75, 80, 100, 200 people, working on piecework or doing jobs where work comes in, versus let's really push to get people out in their neighborhoods, out in their local community, doing those jobs. So I just think it's a philosophical shift over the last decade, and the pandemic probably brought some light to some employers that maybe didn't look there in the past, and it wasn't no fault of their own.
Right.
I think we have to take some burden of that of, how do we push the envelope to let employers know that this workforce is available to them? And we're evolving with that all the time too, of how do we make those connections with those businesses.
Well, do you find that a lot of employers just think, I don't have a job that these people would be capable of performing?
I think sometimes that can be a stigma or a bias, and again, that's no fault. It's, we all have our own inherent or internal biases and what we think. And,
well, I guess what I'm saying is are they, are they capable of performing more jobs than most people realize?
Absolutely, and that's, I guess I think of, at least from our world in developmental disabilities, again, when you have, there are clearly other disabilities that people have that they don't qualify for our services. But when you think developmental disabilities, maybe there are sometimes people think, well, okay, if it's not a retail job or landscaping or that, we serve people that go on to school to get their master's degrees.
Okay.
So, we really do serve a wide spectrum of individuals. So that's where, yes, we may be helping someone get a job in retail at a local Walmart or a Home Depot or in a food service industry, But, we've also, we've been involved with individuals that are, getting jobs with state and local governments that we've had to help them and maybe overcome some barriers if it's due to a physical disability and make sure that they have the right accommodations. And again, that's where we try to partner with, Voc Rehab and some of those other partners to say, hey, what can we all do to wrap around and make sure this person is successful, at
Right.
their chosen profession.
Give me your kind of pitch. So if a business, you're at one of those chamber events and a business owner comes up to you and he's just talking, you guys are shooting the breeze and he's like, I'm having labor problems. I
Yeah.
need 5 people right now.
Right.
What's kind of your pitch to him? Like, hey, you know what? This is what we can do for you. This is something you should look at, and these could be the benefits.
Right. And I always look at those situations like, well, I don't want to set ourselves or our individuals up for failure. So
Sure.
typically what I say was, well, what are you looking for? What skills are needed, to make sure we might have matches for that, but so let's say we're beyond that and it's like,
Sure.
oh, it sounds like a match. Then, sometimes I'll start to, well, what is your typical absenteeism rate? How long do people stay at their job? And then I can start to give statistics. Well, here's where our absenteeism rate much lower than the average American workforce.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's proven out that, and I can probably get you actual statistics, but those things
Yeah.
are there, and some of those things are on like the Employment First websites, and again, we want individuals we serve to have fulfilling, independent lives, but some of the things in life that may get in the way of employment for you or I, some of our individuals may not be there at that point in their life when they're first taking that job. They may not be married, they may not have children, all of those things that can affect, hey, I need to miss for, my children's sporting event or my child's, medical appointment. Not to say that people we serve don't have some of those things going on in their life, but there's, to be quite frank, there's a majority of our individuals that don't have some of those other life stressors. They have
Sure.
other barriers and other life stressors, but some of those aren't related to causing them to miss work or have absenteeism from
Right.
work. So, we talk about some of those things, to be frank. I mean, I always believe if you're going to have that conversation, just lay it on the table and say, hey, here's some things as to maybe why our individuals could be a better fit. And, a lot of the individuals that we serve, think of maybe, I look at the gamut of what they've been through in school, probably building good relationships in a smaller, tighter, whereas you or I might have been in a classroom with 30 other students. Some of our individuals we serve, they might have been in a classroom with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other kids. So they probably learn to be part of a team and work on task with their team, their fellow students, work with their teacher, going out and having those, community experiences and being involved in that. So I think being able to tell the history maybe of how some of our individuals we've really worked on transition. That is also part of like special education law now. So when a student hits a certain age, like age 14, if a child's on an IEP, like transition to adulthood and work life is one of the things that they need to work on.
Right.
Whereas maybe a student that's not on an IEP, they go to school, okay, maybe they go find a job, but there's actual work done with those students to try and prepare them for the workforce.
Right.
And then also give that pitch of, we can bring staff along or someone else can to do the work of training them. Don't worry about the training. Don't worry about you have to do your onboarding, HR, all of those things. But when it comes to learning the job skill or the training, you show, someone, and then we'll have that person, spend the time with them. So I really do think the pitch is how it's a win for them, that they'll get a dedicated workforce that will show up for work, and that it's hopefully not going to cost them any more money for the initial onboarding than it would any other employee. I mean, it's a business, right? They're there to make a profit. It's not, and
those are two huge things.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of business owners that wouldn't immediately go, hey, what?
Yeah, and that's the way we talk about it as well. This is not charity. This is not, hey, we're just hiring individuals because sounds like a good thing to do. This makes good business sense.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to tell business owners. Like, yeah, it may be a feel-good story, but you're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it because it makes good business sense.
Yeah.
And it's benefiting you as a business owner and that individual, and it's benefiting your community in general, the inclusiveness of that. And I think that just builds then, if you have a diverse workforce that's also inclusive and they see individual, that may inspire some other young person with a disability as they go through that business. Oh, I could do that one day too,
Hmm.
right? What we kind of see every day and what we take in becomes like our circle of, our thought patterns. And if you have that inclusive workforce, that may inspire some other young individual like, oh, I might want to come work for this business one day. So again, it's just that snowball effect and organically to get it going. But yeah, that pitch to those business owners has to be of how it benefits their business,
Hmm.
not how it benefits us as a public agency or just that one individual.
Right.
Like how everyone, that it's a win-win relationship.
717 Credit Union. Business services designed to meet your daily needs. Commercial loans, business deposits, merchant and payroll services. 717 Credit Union. It's knowing you were treated right every time.